You don't usually wake up one morning and decide, today I'm going to completely change how I run my business. It's subtler than that. It starts with a feeling that the business is working, but you're working harder than you should. That growth is happening, but it feels fragile. That every decision still seems to run through you. Your gut, your memory, your best guess. And if you're honest, you know that's not sustainable. Hi, I'm Pam Meissner, COO and CFO at CathCap. As we look ahead to 2026, that's the tension we're paying attention to. Not growth for growth's sake, not more activity, more noise, more dashboards, but something quieter and far more powerful. Resilience, clarity, and leadership that isn't dependent on one person holding everything together. Over the past year, we've had a front row seat to what's really changing inside founder-led businesses. And what's clear is this: the companies that will thrive in 2026 aren't necessarily the biggest or the fastest. They're the ones that are intentionally building financial leadership capacity, not just financial reporting. So today, I want to share how we're thinking about 2026, what we're seeing, what we believe matters most, and what we believe strong leadership will require in the year ahead. Not predictions, not platitudes, just perspective. First, clarity is no longer optional. For a long time, a lot of businesses got by on momentum. Revenue covered mistakes, cash smoothed over inefficiencies, and founders could rely on instinct because the margin for error was bigger. That margin is shrinking. In 2026, clarity isn't a nice to have. It's the baseline. And I don't mean knowing your revenue last month. I mean understanding with confidence what's driving it, what's draining it, and what happens if one assumption changes. Because leadership without clarity turns into reaction, and reaction creates exhaustion. The leaders we see doing this well don't feel calmer because their businesses are easier. They feel calmer because they're not guessing. They know where the business is heading, even when the path isn't perfectly smooth. That's the level of visibility we believe leaders will demand going forward. Second, decision-making has to move out of the founder's head. This is a hard one, especially for founders who built their business by being close to everything. But here's the truth we see again and again. If every important decision still requires you, then your business hasn't actually scaled. It's just grown more expensive to manage. In 2026, strong businesses won't be defined by how smart the founder is, but by how well decisions are made throughout the organization. That means teams who understand the numbers behind their work, leaders who can explain why a decision was made, not just what was decided, and systems that create alignment instead of bottlenecks. The goal isn't control, it's confidence. Confidence that the business can move forward even when you're not in the room. Third, accountability is becoming a leadership advantage. This one often gets misunderstood. Accountability isn't about pressure, it's about clarity. When expectations are vague, people hesitate. When metrics are unclear, performance drifts. And when accountability only shows up during a crisis, trust erodes. The businesses preparing well for 2026 are shifting accountability upstream. Before there's a problem, before the fire drill, before the stress hits payroll or capacity or growth, they're making accountability part of the operating rhythm, not a reaction to disappointment. And interestingly, this creates less tension, not more, because people know what winning looks like. Fourth, financial leadership is expanding beyond finance. One of the biggest shifts we're seeing is this: financial leadership is no longer confined to the finance function. In healthy companies, it touches operations, hiring, capacity planning, pricing, marketing decisions, technology investments, not as a gatekeeper, but as a strategic partner. In 2026, the CFO role, fractional or otherwise, isn't just about accuracy. It's about translation. helping leadership teams understand what the numbers are actually saying about the business, helping founders test decisions before they become expensive, helping companies think in scenarios, not surprises. This is where we see businesses move from anxiety to intention. Fifth, growth is being redefined. More revenue isn't the only definition of progress anymore. In fact, some of the strongest companies we know are growing more selectively because they finally understand the cost of growth that isn't aligned. In 2026, growth will mean more durable cash flow, healthier capacity, teams that aren't burning out, and founders who aren't carrying the emotional weight of every outcome. The question leaders are starting to ask isn't, how fast can we grow? It's, what kind of business do we actually want to be running? And that's a much more interesting and sustainable question. So, what does this mean for us? Our vision for 2026 is simple, but not easy. We want to help leaders build businesses that don't depend on adrenaline, that don't require constant heroics, that don't collapse under growth. Businesses where financial insight supports leadership instead of controlling it, where structure creates freedom, and where clarity replaces stress. We're deeply committed to staying practical, grounded, and honest about what actually works inside growing companies. Not theory, not hype, just real leadership support for real decisions. And maybe the most important part of our vision is this. We believe the best businesses of 2026 will be led by people who aren't trying to prove anything, but are intentionally designing how they want to operate, with fewer surprises, better conversations, and a lot more confidence in what's ahead. So as you look toward the year in front of you, here's the question we'll leave you with. What would change in your business if clarity came before urgency and leadership didn't require you to carry everything yourself? That's the work ahead.